Welcome to Metaphysical. So ask yourself, is there any truth to the stories of making deals with the devil to cheat fate? From occult deals in history to performers and possession, this discussion is going to get really deep. So join remote viewer John Vivanco and me, investigative researcher Rob Counts, for a show that's out of this world. Hey, John.
Hey, hold on a second. I just got to put my Ouija board away. I've been really trying to, connect up and use the Ouija board to bring in, goodness for us.
Yeah, it's a great way to get yourself possessed. Yeah. Actually, tons of people have reached out to me since I started Edge of Wonder telling me their Ouija board stories. And they are really crazy.
They are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the more crazy stories I've heard.
What kid doesn't play with Ouija board? I don't know. Every once in a while you hear these stories, and I had a friend who, oh my gosh. I had actually a couple friends who were playing with a Ouija board, and this one female spirit came, and my other friend kind of fell in love with the female spirit and basically stole the Ouija board from my friend so that he could always communicate with this girl spirit that he fell in love with. It's just like,
dude, what's so weird about it is you just described a modern day person's relationship with their iPhone. You kind of just blew my mind, actually. Who am I talking to on this DM or whatever, right?
Oh my God. Oh man, let's just not go there.
No, but actually that's kind of what he was doing in a sense. Like he got attached to this conversation, and most of the people that I've met that had stories of Ouija boards is that the Ouija board slowly became an insatiable addiction for them, where they had to do it all the time to communicate with whatever it was that they were communicating with, and it drove them to a place where actually it was ruining their life, and they had to cut back, forcibly or not. And this happens to people with tarot cards and angel cards as well. And there's a gigantic, massive history revolved around these things that a lot of you at home are probably not aware of. What's strange are the more direct stories that we're going to cover today, which are all revolved around people making what's called a Faustian bargain with the devil in order to gain some type of fame or change fate. And if you all didn't know where the deal with the devil idea, I guess you could say, came from, there was a guy named Faust. He was a alchemist and a magician. This is where we get the term Faustian bargain. And he made a pact with the demon Mephistopheles in exchange for his soul, I guess, to gain mystical powers and things of this nature. And so Faustian bargain became a kind of household term. And basically the guy who's held responsible for creating rock and roll, his name's Robert Johnson, is the first reported deal with the devil back in, I think it was like the early 1920s or something like that. It was like okay. Now I want you to keep this picture open for a second, because this is a picture of Robert Johnson. And John, have you seen this picture before?
No, I don't think I have.
You see that kind of cloud of mist over to the right? People claim to see a demon there looking back at them. You see the two eyes?
I see it. I totally see it. Yeah.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah,
now,
I totally see it.
This guy, he became a music sensation, but all the blues artists at the time said that this guy was the worst player they had ever heard.
Wasn't it like he went away for a year and then came back and he was amazing?
So he goes away, and then he goes to highways 49 and 61 in Mississippi, says he made a deal with the devil there, and then all of a sudden becomes the best player among all of the blues players. Now, this guy was so quote unquote talented that guys like Eric Clapton and stuff would listen to this guy and say that it sounded like 2 or 3 people playing the guitar, not one, which is weird because, I mean, yes, maybe he was given talents that would make that, but also was that the entities also behind him creating, I don't know, extra juice into the music itself.
That, or he's given supranormal abilities.
Right.
You know,
some type of supernormal abilities.
Maybe he grew some extra fingers.
I actually have about 0 tolerance for most of my old material, especially Crossroads. Now, this is Eric Clapton talking back about a song that he wrote called Crossroads. Hit cancel there. No, can you pull that back up, Lindsay? Thanks. So it says here, and this is an article that we pulled up in a classic interview when Slowhand revisited Robert Johnson's legacy in 2004. We spoke to a candid bluesman. That's Eric Clapton, and he said, "When all the original blues guys are gone, you start to realize that someone has to tend to the tradition." So I think it's really strange that this is the Crossroads song here. It says, "I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees, asked the Lord above for mercy. Save me, if you please."
Rosedale is where Johnson supposedly made his Crossroads deal.
Yeah, and it's weird too because it says down here, like, "I'm going to Rosedale, take my rider by my side." I've often heard the devil being portrayed as a rider. I'm not sure if he's doing that here. So this is strange. Now, one of the other really bizarre things is that Robert Johnson is reportedly or allegedly the first of the 27 Club.
What is the 27 Club?
Well, the 27 Club is a group of stars that also made deals, and they all died at the age 27. They were given the fame, and then it was taken. Their life was taken when they were 27 years old, and Robert Johnson is the first of them.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we did a whole series on
that.
Celebrity.
I never heard of that. The 27 Club. They all die when they're 27.
Yeah. So Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, James Morrison. All of these guys died at 27, and there's more too. Here he is. Here's one.
It's really fascinating. I mean, it's like, okay, so fourth, fifth dimensional reality, whatever. Okay, think of the Flatlander concept. Michio Kaku, who's a physicist, who's put forward. He basically will just put forward like practical ideas about physics.
Nonsense, really. That guy's like the
but listen,
yeah,
right, he totally is.
Yeah.
But one thing that lines up with our data that he's spoken about is the Flatlander concept. So if you're looking at another dimension from a higher dimension, let's say that you're looking at third dimension to second dimension, right? He had talked about how, well, you could, to us, it would look like a being had an outline, and you could see inside their body, right? It's just kind of drawn, and they can move around. They're like a drawing that can move around. We can rearrange their organs. We can take organs out. It would mysteriously happen to them. They wouldn't know what it was. We can move them outside of their homes, whatever, and they wouldn't know what happened. This is a concept that works with, let's say, a higher dimensional reality to us, right? So these beings that exist in another dimensional reality can manipulate us, give us things, give us abilities, do things to us, do things for us that would seem like magic to us. And there are a whole host of those beings. That's why I bring up that Flatlander concept, so people have an understanding of what it would be like, right? Because this happens. I mean, I've had remote viewing sessions. Especially one we were looking at a treasure. It was like a whole group of us remote viewing. We didn't know we were looking at a treasure, but we had a being that was trying to protect the treasure come and screw with every single one of us at the same time. And for me, this being like grabbed my shoulder, it grabbed my leg. I could feel its grip, like gripping me and holding me tight. So these beings have a power, if they have enough energy, over third dimensional reality and can do things in third dimensional reality that look like magic to us. You bring out your Ouija board. There's a whole host of beings that are waiting to talk to you, to give you things, right?
So that it can get something.
Exactly.
Exchange, right?
In exchange for it, right? I mean, there are lots of beings that just want to mess with humans in general, that we can't see them.
And it's a shame that humans do not have enough of an understanding of energy.
Right.
There are type like orgone, for instance. It's an energy that no one will recognize, that obviously does something.
Right.
I mean, why did everyone have one of those orgone machines in their house back in the day in the 1920s? You know, I mean,
like, seriously,
yeah.
Right.
And then you've got, you know, Wilhelm Reich, who's like creating an orgone machine that can reportedly alter weather.
Well, we have viewed the heck out of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've even had weird personal experience with that whole orgone thing. So I know it's real. I know it's actually, you know what? So I just have to say this really quick. As far as orgone goes, okay, there was one time I was watching all these videos on YouTube about people making orgone.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, okay, I don't know. I'm very sensitive to things, so I'm going to check it out. Because the people in the videos were like filming helicopters and going, well, this helicopter, I made orgone, and now this, and I'm going, no.
Yeah, right.
No.
Right.
But anyway, I made like a whole bunch of them one day. I just wanted to see what it felt like. I made a whole bunch. And literally the next day, this helicopter, I'm not kidding you at all, comes and runs my property line at about 100 feet, back and forth. I'm going, what? What is going on here? This is like the weird orgone videos that people are making. It was really bizarre. And so I tasked remote viewers on it. Like, what was the helicopter doing? Because I want to understand, this is like a normal thing? Is this a mundane thing? It's running my property line back and forth because I lived on a big property. And what it was that they were looking for something that broke an energetic grid that they were monitoring.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there must be some instruments they have that are detecting the orgone, and they're seeing, or energy of some type, call it whatever you want, and they're coming to check it out because it was disturbing too much. So what? But can you tell the audience at home what orgone is, John?
Orgone is it's like chi energy. It would be like chi. So Wilhelm Reich had developed the orgone box,
right?
And did a lot of studies around it. And it's like a chi energy or an ether type energy that can have a healing effect or a blocking effect or a breaking effect, right, on different energy structures. And his lab was basically destroyed, and he was put in jail, all his work stolen, because of the claim that he had made that it can help cure cancer. And that's a no-no when it comes to the FDA and pharmaceutical.
Or, big pharma, which was, rocking and rolling back then too.
Right. But it does work. This does have an effect on energy. Absolutely. 100%. He was correct in what he was doing.
So, okay, so we've got that whole energy thing we're just talking about, and kind of the interference in the energy realm, where there was been tons of interference in Hollywood as well along these lines, and it's strange. I find it strange, and I'm not sure if you knew this. We brought up Jim Morrison before, probably one of the more possessed dudes in that entire discussion.
Jim Morrison was one of the more possessed ones?
Yeah, oh yeah. Like, people would talk about it all the time. The guys that worked with him said that he had different entities coming out of him.
Right.
Apparently Jim Morrison was a completely different guy in high school. As soon as he gets out of high school, all of a sudden he turns into Jim Morrison. No one could really understand it. Frank Zappa, Papa John Phillips, David Crosby, all the sons of high-ranking members of the military.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
And we know that there were intelligence agencies involved in the success of the Beatles as well. And then, you know, and we have Elvis who's moonlighting as like a FBI or CIA spy to try to get information on the Beatles because he didn't like him, working with Nixon. But you know, Jim Morrison actually, you know, he had alters. And you know, this idea of him being like the Lizard King and all of this stuff, and the band itself being called the Doors, as if opening up you know, dimensional portals to somewhere else to bring something else in, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, of course, again, it's like for anyone who's been trained to not pay attention to symbolism, you're going to listen to what I just said and be like, "Oh, you're wearing
you sound insane.
You sound insane. You're wearing a tinfoil hat." But you know, why call these things that if you're not meddling in some of this stuff? Yeah, could it be random? Some of them were random. In the 90s, I believe a lot of those were random. I don't believe there was anything nefarious behind Pearl Jam, the name.
Well, you know, yeah, I mean, music has really been taken over now. I think that like what we were looking at with these Crosby, Stills, Nash, Led Zeppelin, also Jimmy Page, the Doors.
Jimmy Page, like, dude, is a huge rabbit hole. Yeah.
But look what was happening back then. Okay, so you had LSD. LSD had come into popular culture at that point in time, and intelligence agencies were really trying to figure out how to use LSD for like mind control, right? It got pulled away from the public, but it seemed like that was when a lot of these bands were making these deals, when LSD and MK Ultra really started to come into their own in that period of time. And then what I noticed with music is that things got more and more alternative, where it almost seemed like there wasn't a lot of focus. That you can find way like really great alternative type bands that weren't part of some like horrible like Devil or MK Ultra structure, but now it just seems like all of it is.
Yeah. And you know, speaking of Jimmy Page, he bought Aleister Crowley's home. Like these guys. Yeah, like these guys were very adept with the occult. I mean, you had Aleister Crowley on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover, right? You have Jay-Z saying "Do what thou wilt" all the time in his lyrics.
Right, that's the whole that's
right.
That's what Satan
is.
And
so Jimmy Page, he bought the Loch Ness Boleskine house, which Jimmy Page bought because of his obsession with Crowley.
Wow.
And like these are highly occult, hermetic things that these guys are involving in and saying, and they're very fascinated with these, you know, with these things. I mean, Anton LaVey was all over this stuff. Anton LaVey, very famous guy down there in Hollywood. You were telling me some things about LaVey that I didn't even know, that there are some, like, how much
Anton
money
Parkway. He owned part of South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, California. Yeah, and he created he didn't create it, but this was part of, I don't know, it feels like it's part of the whole paradigm. Place called the Anti-Mall, which was just outside of South Coast Plaza. It was for the kids, that looked like this industrial collapsed building with all these shops in it. And I noticed one day that the girders that were sticking out of it were in the shape of a pentagram, which I thought curious because literally Anton Parkway's right there. He was heavily involved in the whole area. And then you even have weird churches there, massive, like Tammy Faye Baker. I think actually she had a church right there, like off Anton Parkway. So it starts to get really weird in that area. Really weird.
Yeah. That man, I haven't spent too much time in that area.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there he is. Aleister Crowley, straight on the Lonely Pepper Hearts Band album. Lots of people in there. You got Edgar Allan Poe in there. Lots of famous people in there too.
So what happened to these guys, you know, after they died? Did they make a deal with the devil? I mean, I think there's like a difference here. So you've got people who are like Robert Johnson, seems like he made a deal with some being, right? some deity, right? And then you have the others who seem like, well, seemed like some of these were just into witchcraft and trying to influence things that way. I mean, as far as all of that goes, we don't know exactly what they did, what they were doing, and what sort of beings they were in contact with. I mean, if you think of the 27 Club, what was it that they connected with? Because it seems like it's going to be the same thing across the board if they're all dying at 27.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, like, okay, first of all, it's very strange that there's a consistent number across a certain number of people, right? Like, you just die at random times. The fact that so many have died at 27 is kind of bizarre, right? But I mean, it's like not all of them. Maybe they're exchanging other things so that they don't have to die. I mean, there's a loads of ways to move energy around. I don't know how it works. I'm just trying to think like they do, right?
Right.
But why do so many actors and actresses claim that they have altars on stage that come out when they're on stage as if something else is playing for them? I mean, we're talking about big people. We're talking about like Beyonce, right? What is her? Sasha Fierce is her altar.
She's channeling. It's like she's letting
she
another
looks
entity
different.
take over her body.
And there are, I mean, you guys at home can look into this yourself, but like, we're talking about not just one person talking about this. And when we talk about an altar and what an altar is, it's not them that they're talking about. They're talking about it as if some energy or spirit came into their body and they're playing through that spirit, or they're becoming that thing.
So I've known a bunch of channelers in my life. I even learned how to do it, right?
And then you don't, because you're smart.
And I don't do it. But I learned how to do it. And there were a couple people, but one person in particular, and I saw this happen across the board, people going crazy, but one person in particular started to dress differently, saying that what he's channeling told him to dress this way. And then this thing that he was channeling eventually told him to kill himself, which he tried to do. So whether you're, whether you want fame and calling these things in for fame, or you're doing it because you want to channel and get good information or connect to some higher being or entity, these things can switch out, right? Like, for instance, people who channel and they think they're channeling a higher entity, they can switch out completely. Maybe you are once, but who cares? Don't even do it. Then all of a sudden you get the dark being come in and you're convinced that it's this other being that you're channeling. It's the same one. Yeah. So it's like these people, when you get to these people and altars, this is literally channeling. This is channeling across the board.
Yeah. And honestly, like, what is the purpose of the channeling? The channeling is a deeper control over your body, right? And
that's what it is.
You're slow possession.
You're supposed to step back and allow this other thing to come into your body,
which is
move your body, right?
Which is possession. I mean, that's what that is, right? And like the weird thing is, these people that are performing underneath or through the the entity, what effect is that having on the listener? We're talking about, we don't understand energy enough to be able to answer these questions the way that modern science kind of looks at these things, but we know that this music can have an effect on people. I mean, look at what's gone on with Eminem, the music and the murders that have gone on, because of people listening to his music. Now, I'm not blaming Eminem for this necessarily, but in 2009, an American man recited the lyrics of an Eminem song as he brutally attacked his family, killing his wife and daughter. "Here comes Satan. I'm the Antichrist. I'm going to kill you," is the stuff that he was saying. Lyrics, right? And then in 2016, a Wisconsin man, he was charged with fatally stabbing his girlfriend more than 24 times and slaughtering her 4-year-old daughter. Urged homicide detectives to listen to Eminem's Spacebound if they wish to understand his motive behind the slayings. And I mean, like, so why are we producing music that's generating these types of reactions in people? You know, look, I understand not everyone is mentally stable, but
Right. There is that.
you still have to be responsible for that too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think so. I think
No,
so.
but also, like, can you really remove the energy that's behind this stuff from the
But what are
actions
these
that are
songs
being done?
about? Like at base level, like think about what the songs are about. The songs are about violence, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what they're about. Is that being responsible? If you've got millions and millions of people who listen to you, why why do songs about murder? Why do horrible songs? Why make that kind of stuff? Why not inspire people into doing good deeds as opposed to negative deeds? Because you've got negative things behind you, right? You've got negative things behind you influencing you.
Well,
Ultimately.
it gets even crazier, and I want to hear what you think about this, John. So, have you ever heard of the whistleblower named John Todd?
No.
John Todd was a whistleblower in the late 80s who claimed to be a part of a very I guess you could say high level Masonic and or Illuminati group, secret society, and he was high up. And now Todd actually is supposed to be a branch off name of this Collins bloodline that is one of these 13 bloodlines that you come across if you start researching what this thing is and how it works.
Right.
Now John actually he there was a lot of things that he said. If you listen to like hours and hours and hours of lectures of him talking to churches and explaining what was really going on, John didn't make it. John was killed by someone or something, and he died, before his time. He claimed that within the music industry, master copies of records were brought into a church or an evil place, and that spells were said over it to put demons in it, and then it's reproduced, so it puts the demons into everyone's home in America that has the copy.
What?
Yeah.
What? So did he give an example of like what is this?
Yeah, I mean, he would give plenty of examples, but basically all major music that was really, really going viral at the time, that
right.
was getting out there, that they were actually infusing this stuff into what people at home were listening to.
Right. But who's infusing it? Are we talking intelligence agencies?
Go up the pyramid, John. Like we're
Right.
talking. So you have radio stations, right? The radio stations are being told to play it. They have to play certain things because why? Because the record companies are the ones that are telling them what to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the top of the record companies, you have like CEOs or people in charge, and then above them, you just keep going up that pyramid. I mean, who's telling them to do this stuff?
What's the ultimate purpose of this?
Um,
like literally,
I think
what's the ultimate purpose?
control and manipulation, right? I mean, think about it. There's more than one thing at play. We're talking about, not only are we talking about like influencing the youth with this music, which is a big part of what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's making a boatload of money and patting everybody involved,
Right.
which is also like, there are groups out there that have replaced have replaced their God with money. I don't know how else to say it. Right. So,
well, think, okay. So this is kind of what it all reminds me of when the whole idea of selling your soul, like, are they trying to sell souls in mass? Is there something to that idea, selling souls in mass? Think about the gods from the past, like before, like pre-Christian. Think about like Odin and Freya, for instance. Odin and Freya, they had their two heavenly realms. Like Odin has his realm, his Valhalla like realm, and Freya had her Valhalla-like realm. And they would actually fight over, like, when people died, which souls came to which realm. So it's like the gods of the past always seem to fight over humans and where their souls go afterwards. Is this just like some aspect of that? Literally. I mean, look at Ra. Look at Ra in the Eye of Horus. When the people weren't worshiping Ra enough, he sent out the Eye of Horus to scare the heck out of them. They started to worship some other god, right? And then he sends out the Eye to do some divine judgment on them for worshiping the other god, to get them back to worship him. Is there something about worshiping these types of beings that gives them something, energy? Does it give them our soul? Is it still like all these different beings are still like fighting after human souls? And is this part of the whole thing? Is this like a fight, spiritual fight under the surface of trying to gain human souls?
And it's like no real high entity would do any of that, right? So it's like,
exactly.
And that's the other thing too, is like, were these entities hijacked by something else, or
right,
or and I mean, it's a strange what you go back into history and just time and time again, like you've got human beings kind of like terraforming what the pantheon was and then replacing it out with something else that they're worshiping. And that,
right,
this thing maybe becomes something. We don't know the level of human interference with any of this stuff, right? So that's kind of the main thing. But it's strange, and we have like weird we have weird examples of this possession in Hollywood by whatever entity it is, whatever you want to call it. But have you ever researched what's the guy's name who played the Joker in the Dark Knight?
Right, that guy. Didn't he die?
Heath Ledger. Thank you. Heath Ledger died shortly after. Was he in the 27 Club too? I can't remember if he was in the 27. I think he was older, but he died during his time playing the Joker. Okay. Jack Nicholson reportedly called Heath Ledger while he was, doing this method acting. This is why I don't like method acting. Method acting makes you the thing, and you act like the thing until you break character and you're done with that, right? Now, apparently, Jack Nicholson called him, and he was basically warned him that whatever it is very hard to come back from. Heath Ledger was actually 28 when he died, so he's not a part of the 27 Club.
That's close enough.
Right, close enough. So it's strange that
there was channeling. You get down there. There was an
entity that Jack Nicholson is talking about that he was dealing with. That
right. He knew of the entity. Yeah, he probably ran into that entity in The Shining.
Oh gosh, Jack Nicholson. Yeah. The Shining.
That's probably where he came in contact.
Not to mention that the entire reason Jack Nicholson was casted for Batman as the Joker was because of his work on The Shining.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, look, really what this is that they are channeling. I've seen it before with channelers who are just regular people, not actors, who want to learn channeling so they can connect into something they think is greater than them. And then all of a sudden they tell you to commit suicide. They kill you, basically. That's really what it is. They're channeling. An actor channels.
But why would someone think that they can even control that? That's weird, because it's like not you, it's something else, and you don't know what it is. Why would you do that? It's like opening the door to a vampire and just allowing them to walk right in. When someone is worshiping it to get something for themselves, they've lost sight of what the entire purpose is, right? So it's like, it's strange. And then you've got people that are so willing to get things. They're so bent on something happening.
Material things that
they're literally willing to sell their soul to get that thing, and it changes the fate of their life.
I'll give my soul up for a couple of bucks or a sandwich, or that's what it's like. I'll give my soul up for a sandwich.
It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like it blows past me. I don't understand it. And yet people are watching these people on film and then idolizing them. Okay, so for one thing, like they're great channelers. They're liars in a sense. They're channelers and they're liars, and they're putting out an energy that maybe you don't even want to be involved with to begin with. And then people are propping them up as heroes of some sort who literally haven't had life experiences that turn them into heroes. There's something around the whole thing, some energetic construct around the whole thing that's wrong.
Yeah, and it's strange. I mean, so I kind of want to like we've got movies that talk about this as well. Like The Exorcist is the most notable one, and a lot of weird things happen on The Exorcist set. But I kind of want to ask, have you and your team had to come across cases where you've had to remote view what's going on with some of this stuff or not?
Oh, you make me laugh, man. Heck no, man. Are you kidding me? There's no way in the world. Okay, so when you're remote viewing, you're not like the disinterested anthropologist taking notes,
right,
or looking through binoculars at something and something's not seeing you. When you get into these types of things, these beings notice you. Their eyeballs,
they're like looking right at you.
And if I want to have shit thrown around my house and poltergeists, yeah, then I'll do it. But no way, we don't do that. I mean, occasionally we'll run into beings that will come after us if we're in a place that they don't want us to be, and we'll get it physically. We'll get attacked physically, and they'll stick around for a while. And I've got plenty of stories around that stuff. But it's not something that we actively remote view. Occasionally we accidentally run across them and we're like, oh man, this is no good. This sucks. We won't be viewing that again or tasking that again. Same with aliens too. Got to be careful.
Yeah.
Got to be careful.
Cool. Well, I think I had a great time during this episode, even though it was weird stuff. We got to talk about a lot of different things. I don't know about you.
No, it was good. It was awesome.
Well, I think, we're probably going to be coming back to subjects adjacent to these in different ways over the course of our Metaphysical podcast. But what do you guys at home think? We'd really like to hear your stories and your experiences with all of these things. It helps us process a lot of this stuff. So if you've got an experience, definitely share it in the comments. And also just understand, like, we're really curious about all of this stuff, and we want to be able to discuss these things. This isn't like, a lot of it is speculation, yes, but also like this is sort of it's a thought experiment that we're doing here, where we're trying to discuss taboo subjects that a lot of people aren't even comfortable sharing anymore for whatever reason. I mean, I think we should be able to share these things. We should be able to share them openly, discuss some of these strange stories that no one's willing to talk about anymore, or that you're going to get basically criticized for talking about. But what's the problem? Like, there's no reason why we can't talk about this stuff. Bring it out to the light, share our understandings on it, and figure out cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, we have to open this stuff back up. Ultimately, I think we do. We should be able to talk about anything these days.
I mean, absolutely.
We really should.
Yeah. I think that itself, a lot of people are like, well, what is this? Like, I saw some comments the other day that were like, what is this clip actually doing for our current situation? And I was like, clearly by your comment, you watch too much news. So thank you. That's why.
Right.
We need to get out of that and start talking about some other things that are going on out there. So,
well, anyway. I don't understand. Like, talking about the same thing over and over and over again is not going to get anybody anywhere. We need a break.
I don't really care what the president said today right now.
Exactly.
It's just like, let's talk about some real stuff that's going on and get back to the roots here. Anyway, John, thanks so much for being here, for having this great conversation. And did you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Be vigilant and stay curious.
There it is. All right, you guys. And until next time, we'll see ya.